Archie versus the strike when pride runs out of money. Archie Bunker doesn't wake up expecting history to walk into his living room. He expects the same familiar order. Go to work, come home, sit in his chair, argue a little, laugh a little, complain a lot, and keep the whole machine running through sheer stubborn routine. For Archie, routine isn't just comfort. It's proof that he still matters, proof that his years of labor still buy him a place in the world. That's why the first blow doesn't land like a workplace inconvenience. It lands like an identity crisis disguised as paperwork. A union telegram arrives with a simple message: strike on Monday. And suddenly the bunker home feels like it has stepped onto a different planet, one where a working man can do everything he's been told to do and still wake up powerless. At first, everyone tries to keep it contained. Edith, who has spent her life learning how to soften the edges of Archie's temper, understands instantly what this news can do to a night that's supposed to be joyful. They're planning an anniversary party, a small celebration of endurance, two people making it through decades of bills, arguments, and everyday stress. Edith wants warmth. Gloria wants the party to feel like a family moment instead of a battlefield. Mike wants the whole thing to get through one evening without turning into a grand speech about how the world is falling apart. Archie, meanwhile, tries to pretend the strike isn't real yet. He talks about it like it's a rumor that can be negotiated away, like it's a bluff the union uses to pressure management, like it's a storm that will pass because it has to pass. The problem is, Archie isn't just trying to reassure the family. He's trying to reassure himself. He needs to believe the strike won't happen because the strike proves something he hates admitting, that his life can be shaken by decisions made by people he will never meet. The party begins with the usual noise: neighbors, chatter, jokes, the familiar orbit of people who have known Archie long enough to tolerate him. Archie performs confidence like he's acting in front of an audience. He pours energy into being the man of the house, the one who's got everything under control. Even when the topic circles back to the union, he treats it like a debate he can win with volume. But the tension leaks anyway, because everyone in that room understands what a strike means. It means the paycheck pauses. It means the grocery list changes. It means pride gets tested. Archie can't stand the idea of being pitted, so he doubles down on bravado, insisting it's nothing, insisting people are overreacting, insisting his years of hard work guarantee that the world won't humiliate him like that. Then Monday comes, and reality doesn't negotiate with Archie's pride. He's home, not home for a weekend. Home because the job is frozen. Home because the system is locked in a fight, and the worker is the one who sits in the waiting room. Archie is the kind of man who can complain about work every day and still be lost without it. The strike strips him of structure. It removes the daily proof of his usefulness. It turns him into a restless man, pacing his own house like he's trapped inside it. Edith, at first, tries to treat it like a temporary inconvenience, but she can't ignore what it does to the atmosphere. Archie becomes sharper, quicker to snap, quicker to accuse, quicker to treat small household mistakes like personal betrayals. The strike doesn't just take money. It takes patience. As the days roll on, the household begins to feel the pressure in the most ordinary ways, which is exactly how financial fear usually works. It doesn't arrive as one dramatic collapse. It arrives as a slow tightening. Meals get repetitive because repetitive is cheaper. Small repairs become arguments because repairs cost money they don't have. Plans get postponed, not because anyone wants to postpone them, but because the math of survival starts taking over everything else. Edith, who normally uses gentle optimism to keep the family steady, finds herself staring at the pantry like it's a scoreboard. She isn't being dramatic. She's being realistic. And realism is something Archie can't tolerate when it makes him feel weak. Mike, as the practical outsider inside the bunker home, sees the strike differently. He doesn't romanticize Archie's pride. He sees a family that may need income and decides to help. He looks for work, even temporary work, because he can do the arithmetic without ego. To Mike, it's simple. If money stops, you find another stream. But inside Archie's mind, Mike trying to help is an insult disguised as responsibility. Archie hears You can't provide, even if nobody says it. Archie's masculinity, his pride, his sense of being the pillar of the household. Those things are so fragile under pressure that even kindness can feel like attack. So when Mike struggles to find a job quickly, Archie uses the failure as ammunition, mocking him, dismissing him, turning the situation into a competition nobody asked for. Gloria gets squeezed between them as always. She wants peace, but she's also exhausted by how quickly Archie turns every problem into a power struggle. She has a new baby to think about, a marriage under stress, and a father whose moods now dominate the house even more than before. The strike doesn't just tighten money, it tightens relationships. Gloria watches Mike try to help and watches Archie interpret help as humiliation, and she realizes something painful. The strike is exposing how much of Archie's confidence was built on his paycheck. Without it, he's not just angry, he's frightened. He just doesn't know how to say, "I'm scared," without feeling like he's losing his place. Edith, quietly, becomes the most important force in the household, because she is the one who has always understood the real work of survival. Archie thinks survival is about being the loudest, strongest, most stubborn. Edith knows survival is about stretching, adapting, doing what needs to be done without needing applause. As the strike drags on, Edith starts making moves that are small on the surface, but huge in meaning. She begins stepping into responsibilities and decisions that Archie would normally claim as his territory. She is not trying to overthrow him. She's trying to keep the family afloat. But to Archie, every step Edith takes looks like proof that his role is slipping, and that creates a quiet tension. He needs Edith's strength, but he also fears what her strength says about him. Archie's relationship with the union itself becomes complicated in a way that frustrates him. He wants to be loyal to the idea of a union because he believes it represents working men like him. At the same time, he resents being told what to do. A strike forces collective discipline, and Archie hates discipline that isn't his own. On the picket line, he's one of many, and he can't stand not being special. He wants the strike to end, but he wants it to end in a way that preserves his pride, like a victory. Yet the longer it goes, the more it feels less like a heroic battle and more like a slow drain. The picket line becomes a place where frustration multiplies, where small conflicts flare up, where Archie's sense of dignity gets bruised by the simple reality of waiting. There's also a deeper question that begins surfacing in Edith's mind, and in Gloria's, and even in Mike's. How did working hard stop being enough? Edith remembers earlier years when they had less money on paper, but somehow felt more secure. Now costs are higher. The future feels less predictable, and one strike can threaten the household stability. Edith doesn't talk like an economist. She talks like a person who has watched the world shift without asking her permission. Her observations carry an emotional truth that Archie doesn't want to face. The rules he believes in might not protect him anymore. Archie tries to fight that truth by clinging to symbols of control. He becomes more demanding about small things. He becomes stricter about spending. He criticizes choices that never bothered him before. He argues over details because details are the only thing he can still dominate. It's a common human pattern. When you can't control the big forces, you tighten your grip on the small ones. But the more Archie tightens, the more the family feels squeezed. Edith grows tired in a way she doesn't always show. Gloria gets sharper. Mike becomes more openly irritated. The strike turns their home into a laboratory of stress, revealing what each person does under pressure. Archie gets louder. Edith gets steadier. Gloria becomes the reluctant referee, and Mike becomes the reluctant provider who keeps getting punished for trying. And yet, in the middle of all this tension, the family doesn't collapse. They adapt, even if they do it messily. That's the strange heartbeat of the Bunker household. They argue like they might tear each other apart, but when the stakes get real, they still circle around the same core instinct: keep the family standing. Archie can't admit vulnerability, but he can still show devotion in crooked ways, insisting on dignity, refusing pity, acting like he's fighting for something bigger than himself. Edith can't always stop the fights, but she keeps the home functioning, which is its own form of quiet heroism. Mike can't always win Archie's respect, but he keeps trying to do the responsible thing. Gloria can't fix the economy or the strike, but she keeps pushing for sanity in a house built on emotional storms. By the end of this stretch, the strike feels less like a simple plot point and more like a warning shot. It shows how thin the margin can be for working families. It shows how quickly pride can become a liability when money gets tight. It shows how love can survive conflict, but also how conflict can exhaust love if it becomes constant. The bunkers don't solve their problems with a grand speech or a perfect ending. They solve them the way real families often do, by getting through the day, cutting corners, swallowing fear, and holding on to each other even when the house feels like it's shaking. And Archie ends up facing the hardest truth of all. The world doesn't care how loudly you insist you're in control. The world moves anyway. The only question is whether you can change with it or whether you'll keep fighting the tide until it knocks you off your feet.